Hey there, everybody. So for those of you who didn't see, that climate strike, mostly sponsored by organizations financed by a lot of these big media companies and the Council on Foreign Relations, along with various state actors from around the world, where high school students mostly are used as propaganda tools to try and convince people that enacting carbon rationing and measures which will have the government seize greater control over energy-based assets, is going to be in their interests. So far, that's failed, but this is yet another propaganda attempt. But unlike the others, there are actual people in my nearby area, as well as most other areas in the country, where people are going to be around that I can talk to. Now, for those of you who don't remember, last year a similar thing happened with the March for Our Lives, where it wasn't high school students, as I showed with my videos. It was mostly people in their 50s and 60s. I suspect it's probably going to be something similar this time around. But I was physically dragged out of that event. The video is still up for anyone who wants to see it, and I'll go ahead and link it in the pinned comment here. But anyways, unlike last time where I had a shitty 4th generation iPhone with less than a minute of footage to record the event with, I have a new 2017, the year that this phone was released, so it has a decent battery life still, and it can record up to 45 minutes of video, and I am expecting to get some good takes. I'm recording this right before I walk out the door, and well, let's see what I get. Some tips you're gonna want for going to any political protest. 1. Wear absolutely no clothing, which could give away that you are a member of a specific political allegiance, especially when you're dealing with people affiliated with any sort of organization that's connected to the state or the party system, because the first thing they're going to look for are identifying characteristics so that they can appeal to your marginal preferences. And what you want in any political discourse is to have an advantage over them constantly, and one of the best ways you can get that is by making sure that they have no idea how to approach you. Secondly, what you're going to want is something that obscures your eyes. What you're expressing through your eyes, that's the most expressive part of your face. If you're covering that up, then it again makes it more difficult to read you, so they have no idea how you're feeling. Fucking hair in my mouth. And it's gonna make it overall much easier to discuss things with them on neutral grounds. Well, here's some irony for you. There is a farmer's market right down there, and there is the little down the road right there is where the climate strike is happening. And isn't that funny? You have right down the road one of the most libertarian expressions of association that you can have in the current society. And right down the road, you've got people essentially arguing for some carbon rationing scheme. Not super relevant, I just thought that was kind of funny and wanted to point it out. I'd be lying if I said that I just admittedly wasn't a bit nervous about coming down here, because, yeah, when I went to the March for Our Lives event, I got assaulted in the 4th degree. So, and I've heard that these climate cultists are even more deranged, so this is, yeah, I'm like not entirely sure that I'm coming out of this safe. The question's gotta be asked, boys and girls. Holy fucking shit, guys. You cannot even make this up. So I actually got down to where the event is happening. Look at this. There are like not even 10 people here. I think that's the bigger story. You have this national protest movement, which is being blown up. There are supposed to be millions of people all around, and sweet Jesus, it's like, isn't it supposed to, like right now it's about 11 local time, maybe noon, so it's 2 to 3 hours in, and there's like 10 people here. Honestly, I think this is probably a bigger story than the actual, you know, if I were to go up and start talking to these people. Their sign says, "We can't wait any longer, act now." Well, why are they standing around holding signs then? Why don't they network in counter economies? And, because, you know, that's, the thing is, they don't, it's not just that they have like their complaint is illegitimate. They have a legitimate complaint, at least in regards to how these oil companies are being sponsored by the state. Of course, they don't see it that way. But the best way to do that, you know, to subvert that, is not to nationalize these oil companies and make them even, you know, less accountable and less able to have change within them than there already is. The best way to go about doing this is creating innovations and networks which subvert these oil companies and the market's demand for oil. And yes, that's not even to mention that there doesn't appear to be a single person here under the age of 40. But, yeah, there are quite a few cars here that, you know, there are way more cars here than people, and, you know, looking at a few of them, I'm gonna go ahead and blur out these license plates, but, yeah, there are people sitting in these cars, and, you know, they look like high school students, so something tells me that, you know, the turnout's exaggerated. A lot of these kids probably just, you know, wanted a day off for school, and the school probably offered it some extra credit to come down here. Wouldn't surprise me. And that's really kind of sad, but, you know, that's sort of what I expected coming here, if there were even going to be people under the age of 50. Kids who are fed up with climate change, more like kids who are fed up with school and would do anything to get a day off. Specifically because of some of the bullshit that they're being taught in school, such as anthropogenic climate change, or that these globalist carbon rationing schemes can do anything for the environment, and not actually creating innovations which subvert a lot of these carbon-based markets, or, you know, nuclear energy, which the government has been suppressing for decades. Yeah, I got inside the stage because, yeah, the wind is causing some audio interference. Yeah, I don't even know if I'm gonna go talk to any of these people, because they just look like a bunch of boomers set in their way, probably not gonna change their mind. That couple over there appears to just be a single mom looking to have, you know, a day out with her son. That's fine. That's admirable. That's, you know, that's something we all can relate to. But yeah, she could have been bringing her kids around a bunch of crazies.
Oh hi, I'm the Heretic, and I am approaching the climate strike in San Antonio, Texas. Wish me luck. I'm sure this is going to be a lot of fun. So I am here at the rally. Haven't actually made contact yet, but yeah, this doesn't look like a very large showing. Maybe like 100 people. Wait. There's a guy with at the end is "nigh" sign, unironically. That is beautiful. That is Yeah, I mean, I know this thing is kind of supposed to be happening all over the world, but yeah, this looks like a very piss poor showing for a major metropolitan area. So just getting footage, figured there's only like maybe 200 people tops, half, maybe more, just gawkers, onlookers like me. Yeah, and I just remembered that I am socially awkward and uncomfortable in crowds. Fuck.
People have and like what discussions people have been having. So you can stay in the shade because it is very hot.
It's not that hot.
Totally understand, but would anyone like to come and like offer up what you or your group were talking about to the larger group? Don't be shy.
I'm extremely shy.
Yeah, come on up. Yep.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Getting news footage.
Yep.
Excellent. I don't know if you guys can hear this. Got a little baby cat girl right there.
And so, like, we have to take it home. We have to talk about it. We have to keep encouraging people to come out and not be afraid to be part of this group. There's always a stigma with being, like, you know, out here and with the signs. But enough with that. Like, we have progressed as a people, but yet, you know, we haven't taken it far enough. And so, like, I'm out here with my daughter and my son. And so, you know, my friends and family probably wouldn't have been bold enough to come out here and join me in this way. But if the people that are running this city and beyond know that we are interested in like changing for the better of our community, then those options will be made available. And I know my friends and family will choose those better options. So like, let's get them out there. Let's make them see us. Let's make this conversation comfortable with people, like, because we don't want to accuse and we don't want to, you know, because I'm not perfect. I still can progress in many ways, but I'm willing to learn. So, like, let's help each other.
Yeah.
I didn't understand a word of that.
Following with what they said about, you know, supporting people who are, you know, maybe don't think that they have the means to come out here and do this, I think we need to set up like support systems for people who are striking or things like that, so that they can be sure that their families will stay fed while they're, you know, fighting against this stuff. Because that's a serious worry. It's a serious reason why people, you know, can't come out here. And we need to make sure that this can happen.
Agorism? Maybe there's hope after all.
Yes, I love the theme that's happening in this sharing. I was going to sort of echo some things that have already been said about when we do engage with our communities. I and a lot of my peers have the privilege to go to college and learn more about the dynamics of climate change and be in an environment where it's encouraged to speak out, but so many other people maybe are never exposed to that knowledge, and we have to really recognize that when and if, which I think we should go into those communities not in an accusatory way or in an attacking way, but in a way that's aimed at bringing us together and sharing and listening, because no one has the solution. We're all working towards finding one together, and I think building those networks in solidarity and support is much more important than directing our anger towards people. So yes, thank you. Awesome, great.
You just need specific
all right.
steps.
I know y'all love this. Who's ready for yet another call and response? Yeah, I promise I will tell you what to say this time. Okay, so let's see. I'm gonna say no more coal, no more oil. soil. All right, you got that? Are you ready?
I
All right.
can't.
No more coal, no more oil.
Keep your carbon in the soil.
Awesome. Now I know you can get louder than that. So again, no more coal, no more oil.
Keep your carbon in the soil.
One more time. No more coal, no more oil.
Keep your carbon in the soil.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to challenge y'all again to speak to people that you don't know, that you've never met. And this time, we're going to be talking about what can we do, what climate actions can we take in our workplaces and in our school spaces. So just yell out, like, who is this your first like political action? Raise your hand. If this is your first political action, raise it high. Yeah, that's awesome. So think about what you do on a daily basis, what
Not a
your
lot of
job is,
people.
where you go to school, how you can politicize those spaces, how you can get people thinking and talking and acting on climate justice. So again, I challenge you to go and talk to someone you've never met before, talk to a couple of people you've never met before, and ask them this question: what can we do in our workplaces, at our work sites, and in our schools to further this cause? All right, so, and break.
Actually, let's try something. Oh, we are in for a fun time.
Putting that aside, I made a game somebody wants to. I made a game.
Hello.
I don't have enough equipment yet, but I was wondering if a few people would play cold freeze.
Hear this?
They get hit with a big ball of cold, and then they stop, and then they have to wait for 5 minutes.
You're waiting for a 16-year-old girl.
All right, sis.
Yeah. Hello. I was just here to offer up some ideas for how you could possibly. I'm blanking on the term right now, but be able to allow individuals to themselves be able to achieve the change that they want to see, instead of simply like terms like networking communities. I figure that these are going to be more actionable steps. So, you know, for example, I'm sure you're all familiar with industrial farming and all of the problems that those cause. Well, here's the thing. A lot of that, the capacity to grow food is so easy with technology like hydroponics. You can grow food in pots. Me personally, I'm actually growing blue Java bananas in pots at home.
Good.
Yeah, they'll probably grow in like 6-7 months. They're slow to grow, but anyways, yeah. The point is that like everybody can take steps themselves to grow food in their own backyards and be able to exchange it on a peer-to-peer basis.
I started a garden, and I absolutely love it. Okay.
Oh, by all means.
Oh, it's not a sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started a garden in my home, and
Nice.
I love the process.
What are you growing?
So there's I have 2 tomato plants, 2 pepper plants, cucumber, watermelon, cantaloupe, strawberries, like basil, like 2 other herbs I can't remember, potatoes, carrots.
That's quite a large selection, actually.
Yeah.
Like, how much are you growing? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, you mean like output, or just like what's the size of the garden?
What's the size of the garden?
I think it's like 12 feet by like 3.
Okay.
Or actually, here, let me. So there's a 12 foot like kind of, or 12 by 6 foot square.
Yeah.
And there's a little like 3 foot kind of like out just a little bit for the vines.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's a lot more than what I'm doing at
But
least.
it's like every little thing helps, and it's just like,
Of course.
yeah.
And I'm just imagining like one of the most effective ways to actually achieving political change is going to be these peer-to-peer networks.
Yeah.
What's going to be most important, in my opinion at least, is that once we're able to become completely self-sufficient, not only for ourselves, but for the people around us, we are actually able to achieve more than, I would even argue, than any demonstration. Because what's going to be most important is that, like, I'm pretty sure have you heard of agorism?
No. Activism. Can you describe it or like explain it?
Yeah, sure. It's a left libertarian idea popularized by Samuel Konkin III. The basic idea is that we as individuals and within our communities are able to achieve self-sufficiency in a way that deprives the government of resources. And we can do this as a very effective means of achieving political change. And it's as easy as, well, what you and I are doing, just growing food in our garden. So I just got a cup of water because I'm starting to get fairly thirsty. And I'm wondering where the recycling can is. I swear I didn't rehearse this in advance. Let's see if they have a recycling thing. You know, the water table should be over here. Ooh, dry ice. Wait, dry ice is frozen carbon dioxide. Those are carbon emissions. Okay then. Hey, excuse me? Do you have a recycling thing for this?
I think it's somewhere when they have a recycling thing.
Just do biodegrade, right?
I think that's what they're doing. I think they're reusing.
All right. No. That's all right. They don't frickin' have a recycling bin. I don't know if it's just like lack of planning or, but. They're closing out. It's 2:10. It is 2:10 p.m. The thing's supposed to go on until 4 o'clock.
Hey guys, I'm Victoria. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sweet. So this summer I worked a really fun office job where we threw away paper all day. There was not one recycling bin in the office.
There's no recycling bin
because
here.
there was no way for the office to recycle. And if you wanted to recycle, you had to bring it home on your own, which makes it really hard for offices to be more environmentally friendly, even in the smallest ways they can. So I think it'd be really useful for our city to reach out more to all communities to help us recycle more. And something I was talking about earlier was I live by SeaWorld, and my neighborhood got composting boxes that the city would pick up, but not all neighborhoods in San Antonio got that.
Oh Lord.
We need to work more on equity in our neighborhood so that all of our neighborhoods can be more environmentally friendly. We can all recycle more, we can all compost more, and then we need to put recycling boxes in our offices and discuss with our coworkers why it's so important to recycle, because something we talked about was apathy in the offices. But I think that we can decrease the apathy by increasing the conversation of how important climate change is to every single one of us. Maybe not to the older people in the offices, but for our children and people in the future. So talk to our coworkers about how important it is to be green in the office. Talk to our city councilors about how we can bring equity into our communities.
Thank you so much. Would another person like to talk about do a report back? You? Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be fun to do after.
So I'm looking out here and I am so inspired by our young people in the city. This is incredible. I think you should give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. So I'm here with a group of architects. We're organized around the world today to support you. We're here to support you, and as well as it's what we do as a profession. We really affect how our built environment consumes energy, and what our built environment looks like. And so we are know that we're working on it, but we are here for you, and we're here to support you. I'm also co-chair of our committee on the environment for San Antonio. So we're a group of architects trying to raise awareness of environmental issues.
both locally and then globally as well. So I think it's really important that we're working locally, we're working nationally, and then we're also working globally. So thank you. All right, thank you so much. Okay, so we're gonna do our last round of chanting. So I want everyone to be like super loud, so loud that like the mayor's like, huh, what's that I hear?
2:13 p.m.
And then we have some musicians here who are gonna play some music for us, and we'll close out and enjoy the rest of our very hot Friday. Okay, so our line is we will choose, we will decide, and y'all's line is we will fight to turn the tide. All right, so does everyone got that? Yeah? Okay, cool.
So culty.
We will choose, we will decide.
We will fight to turn the tide.
We will choose, we will decide.
We will fight to turn the tide.
We will choose, we will decide.
We will fight to turn the tide.
All right, one more, super freaking loud. We will choose, we will decide.
We will fight to turn the tide.
Hell yeah! All right, give yourself a round of applause. All right, now we have some musicians here. So dance,
This is
I
gonna be
guess.
good. This is gonna be good.
Well, yeah, and you know, my name's Elizabeth Stevens. I'm an organizer, educator, and activist here in San Antonio, Texas. And I'm just so glad to be here with you. I'm so glad to see so many people showing up for this and being willing to be advocates and witnesses for you and your community so that we can really make the change necessary. I'm here representing the Poor People's Campaign. This is a revival of the campaign that was started by Dr. Martin Luther King right in the years before he was assassinated. And it's about calling for a moral revival. It doesn't matter what religion or if you're non-religion, you can still have a moral compass. And it's about moving with that moral compass in mind, not moving with consumer greed, not moving with profit in mind, not moving with selfish desire in mind, but moving with your moral compass in mind. And that's why you're all out here today.
This is some song about democratization.
We shall not be moved. You can hear this. We shall not be moved like a tree standing by the water. Come on up. We shall not be moved. Run that for me and sing along. Ready? We shall not.
The best musician in San Antonio, everyone.
Nuremberg, we shall not be moved. Nuremberg, we shall not be moved. Standing by the water, we shall not be moved. Keep clapping. In the Poor People's Campaign, they talk about policy violence, about how much the violence, polluted water is violence. That's policy that created that. Right? Polluted air is violence. That's policy that created that, right? Policy violence. Use that when you talk to people. So now we're going to sing one to Mitch McConnell. Ready? Mitch McConnell, we shall not be moved. Mitch McConnell, we shall not be moved. On a tree, standing by the water, we shall not. Who else? What do you sing to? Bolero? Who was the Bolero? Ready? It's gonna be like real wet. Bolero, we shall not be moved. Bolero, we shall not be moved.
I don't know who that is.
Standing by the water, we shall not be moved.
So cringy.
Oh shit, yeah, Amazon. If you support Amazon, you support ICE. Call your friends out.
ICE is in Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
Amazon, we shall not be moved.
It's trying so hard.
On the line, like the tree. Come on, ladies. Millennials, we
down, Boomer.
Yes, dancers. The hippies were all moving your body. You think that was the LSD? Maybe, but it doesn't have to be.
Trying to relive the glory days. A cult chant.
Related. All right, so please consider going to the. If you have the rest of the day, if you're trying to avoid that philosophy homework, Trinity. I went to Trinity. This is what angry alumni become. See? All right, education is power. So skip that philosophy homework to meet us over at the Knicks Hospital. All right.
They're not cutting it short, are they?
All right, so that's all we have for you. We hope that you are as energized and angry and ready to do something as we are.
They're cutting it short.
So if we don't see you at Nick's Hospital, then
It's not even 2:30 yet.
Again, this place, this plaza,
that's
main
not good.
plaza, 10 a.m. Get ready to march and get ready to take back our
screw
city. All right, give yourself one more last round of applause.
2 hours for this. It's out. Maybe they're done.
Thanks for sharing.
But there it is. What the hell? They just touch each other with these balls and they're supposed to freak out. What the hell? It's like they're playing tag. They're playing tag. What the hell?
It's dry ice. Wait, it's dry ice.
What the? I don't know what this is. I don't have any words. This doesn't even qualify as a boomer game. Oh hi, I hope you enjoyed that because that was all I was able to get because for some reason they decided to cancel the event early. Don't forget to check out Esoteric the Free's counterpart to this video. The link to it should be below. He went to a climate strike rally in his area too on the same day, September the 20th, 2019. So if you want more footage in addition to more arguments as to why these people are completely full of it, check it out. Anyways, they didn't say they canceled the event, but it ended at 2:30 p.m. when the website said it was supposed to go on for 4 p.m. Anyways, yeah, it looks like roughly 80 people tops showed up. As I said, a very poor showing for a major metropolitan area, especially one that has a university nearby. I mean, really, of all the millennials and baby boomers trying to relive their glory days, the best you could get is 80? I mean, that's really pathetic. There are a lot of other interviews, a lot of other people I met that you didn't see on screen because the footage was cut short, or we were rudely interrupted by the organizers who wanted to organize a chant every 5 minutes. I have no idea why. But one thing I did find that was very insightful is that a lot of times they're closet agorists. They realize that they have to trade on peer-to-peer networks and that they need to exchange outside of white markets. They just don't realize that yet. They just need to get past their platitudes, slogans, cultist chants. Seriously, those chants were pretty creepy. And their insatiable desire for government agents to solve these problems for them. I mean, I talked to a few people who were there who didn't even know why they were there. Substituting their thinking for whatever it is that the group wants, I suppose. And I had a lot of success when I was talking to people and framing agorism along the lines of as a political tool to deprive the state of resources so that our tax dollars don't go to the US military, which is the largest polluter in the world. I really don't think I would consider these people a lost cause. Well, the baby boomers are obviously a lost cause, but another thing I noticed is that there were several government agents going around, mostly San Antonio city officials. The attempt of the protest is to get the attention of the city in order to achieve government action in terms of solving climate change, when in fact it looks very much like this was done deliberately by the city in order to coerce the environmentalists into thinking that they can actually achieve change through the political process, through protesting, and any one of the other actions that is definitely not involved in actually setting up the peer-to-peer exchanges that they need so much, that they admit they need. There's going to be another march tomorrow towards a hospital that apparently is being shut down because it's not profitable enough. I don't know the circumstances behind that. I don't really care. But yeah, I'm not going to be there. But this isn't something I usually do, so it's kind of interesting to get out of my comfort zone and do something, a little unusual. Actually go out of my way to meet people. I swear I wasn't there to cause drama. That's not something I do, and it's not my personality to do that kind of thing. And from what I could tell, the people there were okay. They weren't nasty, they weren't vindictive, they weren't giving me weird looks. I mean, there were definitely some weirdos, more than a few you could probably see, but, to be fair, I was probably the one giving them weird looks. Anyways, I hope we can get something out of this non-event. Leave your thoughts in the comments below.
Hey there everyone. So I'm probably not going to say much, but needless to say, that didn't go even remotely the way I expected it to. But when I went down to the climate strike, I was expecting to try and establish a point which I wasn't necessarily able to, which I'd like to get across because I believe it's vitally important and is being significantly overlooked by general libertarians, both in the mainstream party-archist variety and within the anarchist circles. Now, Filthy's local climate strike had a lot more people in attendance, though it's still safe to say that the state media's characterization of thousands of students in attendance is wildly exaggerated, and consequently he was able to establish this point pretty well. However, I'd like to expand upon this a little bit. So, regardless of your perspective about the nature of climate change, whether or not it's caused by humans, whether or not it exists, this is hardly relevant to the mainstream discussion surrounding the political nature of the climate debate, as this subject is a perfect demonstration of a position I've been consistently trying to argue, which is that through legislation imposed onto the population of people the state claims to rule over, along with the state's establishment of a cohesive master narrative through its control of its society's education and media, which propagates political rule as the only means by which non-state actors can have their interests met in the said society, human behavior is heavily socially engineered in state societies by the threat of violence imposed onto the population by the state, and legislation along with policy proposals serve as a means by which the state establishes a sense of asset security for the population it rules over, further enforcing the state's previously noted master narrative. But not only is human behavior manipulated to a remarkable extent because of the threat legislative proposals create, but the master narrative propagated onto the population and how the state attempts to legitimize itself within this framework has led to people conceptualizing their interests, the world around them, along with society in manners which are not only provably false for the most part, but leaving these people with the inability to ever come to anything other than a very narrow set of false conclusions and inaccurate assessments of concepts, which most accept as a result of it reinforcing their perception of asset security from a fundamental level, and therefore their perceived material interests. This leads to a series of socially dysgenic effects on the population within an authoritarian society, but the one I was highlighting is specifically that the state encourages people to view philosophy and scientific methodology interchangeably with their own perceived material interests, and whether or not somebody identifies with a philosophy or a scientific method has ramifications to their own assessment of their marginal interests. And how the climate debate is framed is more or less the logical end of this mentality taken to its most extreme conclusion, where your position on a scientific question determines your perspective on what you believe the state's role in society should be, and vice versa. Now, because of the extremely narrow, tribal nature discourse surrounding the subject matter has become in mainstream political discourse, this discussion has become trapped within a false dichotomy based on underlying presuppositions which don't stand up to observational scrutiny, of which are non-state actors destroy the environment universally in pursuit of their own interests, the environment can only be maintained through bureaucratic rationing schemes and increasing the state's influence over industry, that if you believe anthropogenic climate change, you have to believe in the former two positions, and if you don't, this means you can't have an opinion regarding the current state of various industries, which are being heavily targeted by these climate strike protests, or the state's influence over energy resources. Now, Filthy Heretic has a great video going over the first point of the aforementioned three in a video on his solo channel, which cohesively makes the case against this by pointing out how the worst cases of environmental pollution have historically been the result of governments mismanaging resources which they claim dominion over, along with how governments and politically favored corporatist entities utilizing government resources are systemically discouraged from maintaining the resources they're using when the resource in question is seized through the state's coercion, and how conversely private actors have a direct incentive to maintain the resources they use to make their ends meet, because without them, they can't make their ends meet. And we also did a collaboration on the Green New Deal, which makes the case in detail against the second point by pointing out how the government creating artificial scarcity of resources can only ever possibly lead to more poverty and an increasing dependence on oil and carbon, since there would be fewer resources being produced and available consequently to the general population, along with an even more cartelized fuel industry which exacerbates the aforementioned issues. I'll leave a link to both of those in the pinned comment, which brings me to the third point and back to the initial one I wanted to establish and talk with people at this climate strike event about, which is that this debate is yet another issue in which the libertarian argument can potentially dominate on, but libertarians usually end up getting trapped within some part of the earlier mentioned false dichotomy and falling flat in both appealing to the material interests of the people they're discussing things with and establishing what libertarianism mainly brings to this conversation, which is unique from all of the other political allegiances which accept political rule as being legitimate. The libertarian solution being, of course, to organize in networks of self-sufficient speculators, establishing subversive means by which to communicate and associate through, along with aiming to create new commodities which undermine the state's cartelized fuel industries, the fuel market's dependence on carbon and oil, and encourage greater amounts of production. As Filthy demonstrated, this approach is viable politically and would actually yield productive and demonstrable changes for the better if adopted widespread by libertarian political organizations. And given how much focus the media gives the climate debate because the state views the climate debate in any form to currently be in its interests due to the aforementioned false dichotomy it's created, counter-economists could, by networking to create actual subversions of the state, not only bring mainstream attention to how effective networking is economically speaking, but could also establish a counter to the state's narrative regarding the climate debate. And what libertarians stand to gain, aside from further deconstructing the state's master narrative, is that by subverting the oil industry, you in the process will cause the US dollar and euro to default because the process of expanding the demand of fractional reserve-based currencies by cartelizing the oil market through state-sponsored industry guilds such as OPEC, also known as petrodollar recycling, will no longer be viable. Filthy Heretic and I I also have a video explaining petrodollar recycling in greater detail as well, which will be, again, located in the pinned comment. Anyway, that's all for today's video. If you liked it, please comment, rate, and subscribe. Tell us what you thought about the climate strike in our videos. Tell us what you thought of my face. I don't really care. Anyway, see you